Just say, Mr. Secretary, that given the statements that came out of this administration, including the White House, it is hard to trust this administration to do an independent investigation. That's why it's important.
But yet you trust the last administration?
I didn't. I'm talking about giving it to the authorities of Minnesota.
I'm just saying, calling Apple what an apple is, or calling orange
I want
what
to
an
ask
orange is.
you.
Don't sit there and start picking one administration to believe in another administration not to believe.
Mr. Secretary, just please calm down.
Wow. That escalated quickly. But this clash didn't start here. It started when the senator began questioning whether government officials had been telling the public the full story.
You'd agree that it's important for the American public to be able to trust what DHS says, right? And that it's important that the department put out factual information. You agree that that's important?
I think it's important for elected officials to do that.
I think it's very important for everybody. So I'm holding up a press release here, Mr. Secretary, dated January of this year. It's before your time. It says that a person named Julio Sosa Silas violently assaulted a DHS agent. I want to read the quote in here from former Secretary Noem. She said, quote, "What we saw last night in Minneapolis was an attempted murder of a federal law enforcement. Our officer was ambushed and attacked by 3 individuals who beat him with snow shovels and the handles of brooms. Fearing for his life, the officer fired a defensive shot," unquote. That's an untrue statement, isn't it, Mr. Secretary?
What we have been briefed on, yes.
Yeah.
That's a pretty direct answer. But the senator isn't done yet. He immediately brings up another case.
And it came to light because the city of Minneapolis had a camera system, and state authorities from Hennepin County have pursued the investigation and recently arrested this officer. Are you aware of that?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So this is part of a pattern we've seen, because I do want to turn to the case of Alex Preddy. And in that case, Secretary Noem said that he was engaged in an act of domestic terrorism. She said that it looked like Alex Preddy intended to, quote, "inflict maximum damage and to kill law enforcement," unquote. That wasn't true either, was it?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the statement.
That wasn't a true statement either.
Of her statement?
Yeah.
I can't speak on her behalf, but it's not what I recall seeing.
You agree the facts don't support that statement?
Well, I didn't make the statement.
I didn't say you did. I asked you whether you understand that the facts don't support
the investigation would say that's probably not accurate.
Yeah.
That's now 2 separate examples. And the senator is about to argue that this isn't just coincidence.
Okay. So, again, we know that because of the video. Secretary Noem also asserted that Renee Good was engaged in an act of domestic terrorism. So, look, the reason I'm asking you this, Mr. Secretary, is I want to know if you're going to be willing to provide state investigators access to evidence they have requested in their ongoing investigations into the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good.
Sir, as you know, the FBI is set up to do the investigation on federal law officers, and we investigate it from the federal side as a federal action, not a state action.
But you're aware of the fact that the state has authority and jurisdiction as well, right, under federal case law?
Actually, under the authority, the federal prosecution stays within the federal government, and so the FBI is set up to do those investigations.
Now the debate shifts from what happened to who should be investigating it.
And I do want to say something too. We arrest between
Mr. Secretary, I'm sorry, I have limited time.
But you said you accused there to be a pattern.
If the chair is going to permit additional questions,
I was answering what you said is a pattern.
Question.
You made an accusation that it was
a pattern. And Mr. Secretary, I went on. There was a pattern. The Secretary Noem said the same thing.
But you said
all
there's
statements
a pattern,
regarding
not a pattern. So
that's a pattern. She said it was Renee Good too.
1,900 people a day. There is not a pattern of this.
Please, the reality
that's an exaggeration of words.
Words matter.
They do.
And I will tell you,
you of all people should know that words matter. And so when you say there's a pattern, there's not a pattern.
Oh, I would say 3 in a row is a pattern.
No, sir.
Secretary.
That's not a pattern. We arrest 1,900
people. Let's get out the dictionary.
Put
your semantics aside. The reality is this is a big problem.
There is no semantics behind this. A pattern of 3 people when we average 1,900 a day is not a pattern.
This is probably the strongest disagreement of the entire hearing.
Just acknowledge your predecessor made statements that were not factually accurate. I want to go. So it sounds like you're not willing to share evidence with the state authorities who are trying to get to the bottom of this. And I will just say, Mr. Secretary, that given the statements that came out of this administration, including the White House, it is hard to trust this administration to do an independent investigation. That's why it's important.
But yet you trust
to share
the last
that.
administration?
I'm talking about giving it to the authorities
No, I'm just
of
saying,
Minnesota.
calling Apple what an
Let
apple
me
is,
ask
or calling
you-
orange
I
what
wanna
an orange
ask
is.
you,
Don't sit
Mr.
there and
Secretary,
start picking one administration to believe and another administration not to
Mr.
believe.
Secretary, just please calm down. I'm going to ask you about Kilmore Abrego Garcia. Are you aware of the fact that in that case, he has agreed to be removed to Costa Rica and that Costa Rica has agreed to accept them?
No, I'm not.
And now the conversation takes a completely different turn.
Okay. So I'd like you to look into this because essentially what the administration did was say to him when he was returned to the United States after being wrongfully deported to El Salvador, and the administration admitted it, wrongfully deported him. After he was returned, they leveled new criminal charges against him, and they said to him, if you plead guilty to these criminal charges, we'll send you to Costa Rica, and if you don't, we'll send you to Liberia. Well, he said, I'm not going to plead guilty to these charges, and it turns out that just a short time ago, a federal judge determined that the administration had engaged in a vindictive prosecution against him. And so my question now is, will you, the administration, agree to have him removed to Costa Rica rather than engaging in punishing him for pursuing his constitutional rights? That's the question. If you don't have full information here, Mr. Secretary, I understand.
Well,
Please
my
get back
question
to
is the gentleman here in this country legally?
Secretary, the time is expired.
The
but if
person
you can
was
answer his
illegally
question.
removed to El Salvador, and this administration has
He is
admitted
still
that.
in this country illegally.
This is the point is he has said he will be removed to Costa Rica, and Costa Rica has accepted that. The point, Mr. Secretary, is
Great. If he's willing
is
to
the
do that, we'll have to
administration.
send him.
The point is that they're engaged in what a judge already found to be a vindictive prosecution, and now they're trying to leverage all this to try to get him to go to Liberia instead of Costa Rica. It's a gross abuse of process.
Mr. Secretary,
Anybody looking at this can see that.
The
Mr.
senator's time is
Secretary.
expired.
A hearing that started with questions about trust ended with a debate over immigration and due process. And that's why exchanges like this continue to draw so much attention. One reason this exchange attracted attention is because it wasn't really just one debate. It was several debates happening at the same time. The first issue involved public trust. The senator argued that when officials make strong public claims that later turn out to be inaccurate, it can damage confidence in government institutions. Whether someone agrees with that view or not, the underlying concern is one that affects every administration regardless of political party. The secretary approached the issue differently. Rather than focusing on individual examples, he repeatedly emphasized the broader scope of federal law enforcement operations. His argument suggested that a small number of disputed cases should not automatically be viewed as evidence of a larger problem. That disagreement became especially visible during the discussion over what qualifies as a pattern. One side viewed multiple examples as a warning sign worth examining. The other viewed those examples as a tiny fraction of a much larger system. What's interesting is that both perspectives are common in public policy debates. People often interpret the same facts differently depending on whether they're looking at individual cases or overall trends. Another major issue raised during the hearing was transparency. Government agencies operate under enormous public scrutiny. Statements made by public officials can spread rapidly through news coverage, social media, and political commentary. Because of that, accuracy matters. When facts change or investigations reveal new information, questions about credibility often follow. The hearing also highlighted the complicated relationship between federal and state authorities. Federal agencies have certain responsibilities and jurisdictions, while state authorities often have their own interests in investigating incidents that occur within their borders. Disagreements about who should have access to evidence or who should lead investigations are not unusual, but they can become politically contentious. The final portion of the hearing shifted toward immigration enforcement, an issue that remains one of the most debated topics in American politics. Immigration discussions frequently involve competing priorities, including border security, law enforcement, legal procedures, humanitarian concerns, and constitutional protections. Throughout the exchange, both participants focused on different aspects of those priorities. The senator emphasized concerns related to fairness and due process. The Secretary emphasized enforcement and legal status. Viewers may agree more with one side than the other, but understanding both arguments is important for understanding the broader debate. Congressional hearings are designed to be challenging. Lawmakers ask difficult questions because oversight is part of their job. Administration officials defend their agencies because they are responsible for explaining government actions. That dynamic often creates tense exchanges, especially when the subject matter is controversial. What viewers can take away from this hearing is not necessarily who won the argument, but what issues were being debated. Questions about accountability, transparency, public trust, federal authority, and immigration policy are likely to remain central topics in American politics for years to come. Regardless of political views, hearings like this provide an opportunity for the public to hear competing arguments directly from elected officials and government leaders. That process is an important part of democratic oversight. And ultimately, that's why exchanges like this continue to generate interest. They're not just about one hearing or one disagreement. They're about larger questions concerning how government institutions operate, how they communicate with the public, and how they maintain trust while carrying out their responsibilities. As always, the most informed viewers are the ones who listen to multiple perspectives, examine the facts carefully, and reach their own conclusions. That's what democratic debate is all about.